Hello again, and welcome to our first edition of the Hubert Davis Show. My name is Jones Angel, alongside the head coach of Carolina basketball, Hubert Davis. We're going to be chatting about the Tar Heels here for the next hour. Looking forward to talking Tar Heel basketball. Throughout this hour, we're going to look back at the first couple of games of the year, look ahead to what is a challenging week upcoming for the Heels. We're going to answer some of your questions, plus let you listen to a little bit of an interview Adam Lucas and I did with a member of Coach Davis's staff, Pat Sullivan, former national champion for the Tar Heels. Of course, Pat on that 1993 national championship team. So all of that coming over the next hour. But let's start with Coach Davis. Great to see you. How are you?
Great to see you.
What's been going on? Just nothing much over the last few weeks.
Nothing at all. Just been relaxing, kicking back, a little bit of time at the beach.
Yeah.
Catching up on Ted Lasso, and other than that, not very much at all.
So 8 months into this.
Yeah.
What's it been like?
It's been unbelievable. It's been awesome, humbling, thankful, appreciative, and very, 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 very busy.
Yeah.
And, you think about the 8 months and where our team started in terms of personnel and where it's ended up, and getting 3 transfers, and Brady Manick and Dawson Garcia, Justin McCoy, for the first time ever meeting DeMarco Dunn, because out of COVID, in terms of our recruitment, everything had to be done via Zoom. And so the first time that I met him was the first time he showed up on campus. And so developing relationships with all the guys, and then hitting the ground running with the 2022 recruiting class, and then getting ready to start this season. So it's been a lot, but it's been great. The staff that we have is absolutely fantastic. Yep. Everybody on our staff went to Carolina, played at Carolina, and we've all played for different coaches. Some of them have played for Coach Smith. Some of us have played for Coach Guthridge. Some of us have played for Coach Doherty and Coach Williams. And so we're giving our guys, our current players, the full body experience of what this means to be at this university and part of this program.
What do you know about the job now that you just couldn't have known when you took it?
Well, the biggest difference between being an assistant as a head coach, as an assistant for 9 years with Coach Williams, I gave suggestions, and that's all I gave. And
Right.
Now as head coach, all day long, you're making decisions. You're making personnel decisions, recruiting decisions, play call decisions, practice decisions, schedule decisions. And so that's the biggest difference between being an assistant coach and then a head coach. But Jones, I've loved it. I've loved being a part of this program, and I said, every day this is not work for me. This is missionary work. It gives me a chance to give back. It's an act of service. And how many people in the country get a chance to work at something that they've loved their entire life, at the place that they have loved their entire life? And so it's been a lot of fun.
We, of course, are going to talk about this year's team and the season to date, but I want to go back in time a little bit. Things moved in relative terms very quickly between when Coach Williams announced his retirement publicly and then when you were announced as the head coach. However, I bet those couple of days felt very long for you. What were those couple of days over that weekend like for you as this decision was being made?
Well, the transition was a lot, the process was a lot longer for me than it was for the public.
Right.
The decision when Coach Williams publicly decided to retire to when I was named head coach, there was a lot going on before, Coach Williams announced his retirement. Right after the Duke game, at home last year, he called myself and my wife over his house that weekend. He said that he was going to retire and wanted me to be the next head coach. And for 2 hours, we talked about how great a coach he is and how much I have enjoyed the last 9 years being one of his assistants. And that's it. We went through the ACC tournament and NCAA tournament. And we didn't talk once. And I wanted all of our focus and our attention to be on that team because I really felt like that we could win the ACC tournament. And I thought we had a chance to make a run in the NCAA tournament. But once we lost to Wisconsin, as soon as we got home, he invited my wife and I over to the house again. And he reaffirmed that this was his last year and he wanted to retire and he wanted to know if I would be interested in and being the next head coach. And so that process from when he officially retired to when I was named the head coach, it was a lot longer process. It was over a month. And so there was a lot of things going through my mind in preparation for what might have happened, which it did, me being the new head coach.
I remember, you may not remember this. I remember when you first came to Carolina, you and I sat down and did an interview, and I asked you, do you ever think about being a head coach? And you said, that's not even in my mind right now. You were just excited about being here and a new journey. Yeah. Was there ever a point where you thought about it as you were going through being an assistant coach?
Well, not really. One of the things that, and I've said this before, the only forward thinking that I've ever done in terms of career was that I knew when I was young that I wanted to come here and I wanted to play at Carolina. Other than that, I just had always been taught to be the best that you can be at wherever you're at. And so when I was here at Carolina, I never thought about the NBA. I wanted to be the best Carolina basketball player that I could become. I never thought about working at ESPN when I was in the NBA, and when I was with ESPN, I never thought about coming back here and being an assistant for 9 years, and in 9 years being an assistant, I never thought about being a head coach here. I did really enjoy it in terms of coaching the JV team. I know it's much different than being the head coach of the University of North Carolina, but it does put you in, as I said before, a lot smaller role, but it does put you in positions to make decisions. And so for the 9 years that I was an assistant, I coached a JV for 7 years, and that was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. I loved being a head coach, and so that made me think about it a little bit, but I never wanted to go any other place than this place. And so then when Coach started talking to me about him retiring and me being interested in being the next head coach, that's when I started to think about it, and when I started to think about it, it put a big smile on my face.
Okay, we're going to take a break. Come back. We obviously have a ton to talk about with Coach Davis. We'll focus in a little bit on the season to date when we return. We're going to get to some of your questions for Coach Davis as well. You're going to hear a conversation with Pat Sullivan. Plus, man, big week. Carolina has Michigan coming up Wednesday evening, and then a trip to Georgia Tech after that. So a big couple of days coming up for the Tar Heels. All of that still to do when we return. It's the Hubert Davis Show from Learfield. Back with the head coach of Carolina basketball, Hubert Davis. My name is Jones Angel. It's his show. It's the Hubert Davis Show. We're here mostly every Monday through the basketball season. Due to the schedule, there will be some weeks that we're on Tuesday, even some weeks this year that we're going to be on Wednesday. So just make sure you check out that full schedule. It's on GoHeels.com. Our goal is to be back at Top of the Hill with you live starting on Monday, January 3rd. Obviously, we're continuing to speak to medical professionals about that. Make sure it's the smart thing to do. We will keep our eyes on that, but we do hope to be back with you soon in person. But, Coach, let's talk a little bit about the season so far. Yeah. 6 games in, 4-2. You have a nice road win at College of Charleston. Obviously, didn't have the weekend you wanted against really good competition up in Uncasville. Your thoughts on your team's performance so far in total this season?
Well, I'm very proud of them. In the 6 games that we've played unbelievable competition, but all different types of styles.
Yeah.
The first game of the season, we're playing Loyola, Maryland, and they run the Princeton offense. And so, from a defensive standpoint, you almost had to throw all of the principles that you talked about in preseason in the trash, and you had to play defense a totally different way. And so to play that type of team and to get a win was really huge for us. Brown came in here, and they were hot, and I was very proud of how we responded, especially in the second half defensively. R.J. Davis had an unbelievable game. Caleb Love, his assists, Leaky Black. It was a great come-from-behind win at home in front of an unbelievable crowd, where for the first time in 2 years, our crowd played a part because of COVID in helping us come back. And so that was great. And then going to the College of Charleston on the road, it was the first true road game in 2 years for any of our players. It was a packed house, and to be able to get a win on the road against a really good College of Charleston team, I was very pleased and very happy from that. I was also encouraged when we went up to Connecticut. Purdue is a Final Four national championship team, and the way that we played and responded I was very encouraged even after a loss. The one loss that I was disappointed in was Tennessee, not necessarily just because we lost, but because the energy and the effort. One of the things as a coach, you never want to coach effort. And for whatever reason, we didn't come out with the same type of intensity, will, and want to that I expected. And I felt like we were going to respond, especially after a hard game that we played against Purdue
Right.
the day before. But I was so proud of, the practice, leading up to UNC Asheville. Defensively, they were really good, and their response, I was very proud of them. And so I'm glad that we've got a week off, and we enjoyed some nice Thanksgiving food, but we also got back in the gym and started to get back to our principles and our foundation on both ends of the floor, and I feel like we're a better team now than we were a week ago.
That part, I mean, I think when you're the head coach, obviously you're going to deal with X's and O's in basketball. But like the stuff you talked about there about the Tennessee game and being surprised that the energy level wasn't what you wanted it to be. Yeah, how much is that a challenge for you right now? Just doing it for the first time, trying to manage all of that kind of other stuff.
Well, there is a lot to manage, but one of the things that a lot of people, and for myself, had to be reminded is, we have a very young and inexperienced team.
Yeah.
Caleb Love and RJ Davis are just sophomores. Kerwin Walton is just a sophomore. You talk about Armando Bacot and, the 2 years that he's been here prior to this year, how many big games and big situations has he been in where at the end of the day it was successful? Mm-hmm. Dawson Garcia, he's a sophomore. Brady Manick is experienced. He's a senior, but he spent 4 years at Oklahoma. This is the first time here. And so playing at that level and understanding the type of intensity and concentration that you have to have on any given day, especially when you play teams like Purdue and Tennessee, that's something that we can learn from. And I really believe that our guys have learned that, and it's made us a better team.
What have you liked the most so far from your team?
I've liked how much fun I'm having. There's been a number of times where people have come up to me and they have said, "You're really having a lot of fun." And I said, "I am." I genuinely love being around each one of our players on and off the court. They're a joy to be around. They're great kids. They have outstanding families. And for the most part, with the exception of the Tennessee game, I've never had to coach effort at all. There's a desperation, and I've said this before, amongst the guys. They've heard my stories, Coach May's stories, Coach Sullivan's, Coach Lebo's, all the former players that have come back, and in a good way, they're tired of that. They want their own memories, their own stories, their own testimonies of them being in big games and making big shots and winning championships for themselves here at Carolina. And that's what drives them every day, and that's what drives them this year to reach all their team goals.
What do you think right now? And I know, it's November 29th, so a long way to go here. What are some things that you have marked of, hey, this needs to get better? And I understand you want everything to be better by March, but what are a couple things that you've identified at this point?
Well, probably two things. One, I want to get better defensively. I really believe that we can be a great defensive team. The versatility that we have on the offensive end, I really believe that exists defensively as well. Our bigs can guard guards out on the perimeter, and our guards are tough enough to guard bigs down low on a post, and I just want to be better defensively. I know that we can. We've shown when we need to, we can be a great defensive team, and that's something that I want to be a foundation piece for us because, from an offensive standpoint, we can score, but as good as, as well as we can score, there are going to be days, there are going to be nights where the ball doesn't go in, and what's going to win are getting stops. And defense is not up and down. It should be consistent every day. It's all about effort and will and a want to, and that's what I want our team to develop into, a great defensive team. And also I like to extend our rotation. Right now we're playing 7 or 8 guys, and we have a lot of talent on this team. DeMarco Dunn, a freshman, Dontrez Styles, a freshman. I'm so happy and I'm so pleased with both of them. They're going to be great Tar Heels, and by the time that they leave Chapel Hill, they're going to have unbelievable careers. And I'd like to play more. We have so much versatility. You only have versatility and depth if you use it, and that's something that I like to develop amongst the year. The rest of the year is just to have a bigger rotation where more guys are getting out there on the floor, and that takes time because it's a big adjustment. Especially in regards to the freshmen going from high school to college, understanding the concepts on both ends of the floor. And I feel with time, more guys are going to feel comfortable about their role, what they can do out there on the floor, and it's going to give us a lot more depth.
One more thing about that, and then we're going to take a break, get to some questions from Tar Heel fans. Do you have an ideal number rotation-wise? Like if you said, I would like to play 8 guys, 9 guys, 11 guys, whatever it might be. Or is that change from year to year depending on personnel?
Well, initially I wanted to have a 9 or 10-man rotation, and I said that, to the team at the beginning of the year that I can't play everybody. We have 13 guys on scholarship. I'm not going to play 13. Right. You can't make everybody happy, but I feel comfortable as a coach having a 9, possibly 10-man rotation. And I think it's really easy to do with our style of play. One of the things that I love is our pace, especially on the offensive end of how we push the pace and we run, whether it's a made or missed basket, and way we get after it on the defensive end. And so that's a fun way to play. It's a great style to play, and it also allows more players to play as fast and as many possessions as we have. And so the number for me would be a 9, possibly 10-man rotation, and I believe that we have the talent and the depth to be able to do that.
Okay, we're going to take a timeout. We've got a bunch of questions for Coach Davis.
All
not
right.
a surprise there, so we're not going to get to all of them today, but we're going to get some today. I'll hold on to the ones we don't get to. We'll keep them throughout the year, of course. But we're going to start answering some of your questions when we return to the Hubert Davis Show from Learfield. Throughout the entire season here on the show, of course, you can send in questions. The 2 easiest ways to do it, one via email. We have the account. It is asktheheels@gmail.com, the exact same email address we use during football season as well. asktheheels@gmail.com, or you can shoot me a tweet at Jones Angel. Angel has 2 L's at the end of that last name. That'll come right to me. We'll accrue all of these, get to as many as we can during the show, and we'll keep them, of course, throughout the season as well. Try to answer these as much as we can. Coach, you ready to tackle some of these?
Let's do it.
All right. So these are actually 2 questions similar. One came from Amy Purrier, and the other came from Jane Exner. Amy's question was, how do you feel the chemistry is with this team? She says some games the chemistry looks great. Other times that she can tell it's a bunch of new players playing together. Yeah. And then Jane said a similar question, with all the new players, transfers, etc., how do you try and build a cohesive unit?
Well, first of all, I think the chemistry is great and it's also developing.
Right.
As you said, there's been a lot of new pieces. You got 2 freshmen, you got 3 transfers, you got a new head coach. And so there's a lot of different personalities that need to get to know each other. And, from a standpoint of us knowing each other and the chemistry off the court, which I think has to be first, I think it's great. One of the things that I, pride our program about is that, the relationships that we build with the players. It's not just our communication on the floor. It's off the floor. I require the guys to stop by the office at least 3 times a week, and we can't talk about basketball. And I've always said that, I can't coach you unless I know you, and you can't play for me unless you know me. And so in terms of our relationship or how we know each other, I think it's a 10 out of 10. I think right now at the beginning of the season, in terms of everybody clearly defined roles and rotations, that's developing right now. It's only 6 games in. And so, some guys are more comfortable than others. And that's what the early in the non-conference season is about find out roles and rotations, who can do this, who can do that, who feels comfortable in this situation. And by the time that you hit the new year and you're fully into a conference season, you have everybody on the same page. And so in terms of chemistry off the court, I think it's a 10 out of 10. And I think it's great on the court, but it's also developing because it's early in the season. You have so many new parts.
Coach Patty Edwards sent this one in. It was an email from Patty. Wanted to know if how Puff Johnson was doing. Puff, of course, battling through some injuries, has not seen the court yet for the Tar Heels. Patty wondering if Puff is getting closer to being able to see some time.
He's just started practicing full practice, being able to do all the drills, full contact over the past week. And so this has been the first time. He missed most of the year last year.
Right.
He got started the first 9 practices this year, and then had a hip problem, got a concussion, and so that allowed him to be out for over a month. And so Puff is very talented. He's a guy that has tremendous length. He can shoot the basketball. He's an outstanding offensive rebounder, and he runs the floor. I've been very happy with the way that he has practiced over the last week since he's been fully cleared. And I fully expect him to continue to play well and make a push to get playing time. He's that talented, and I'm looking forward to seeing him develop, and I would love to see him out there on the floor.
Coach, and this isn't a question, but you mentioned offensive rebounding from Puff. How have you felt like that area has gone so far? I know you guys had a big rebound advantage in the last game, but that was a team that you were much bigger than in UNC Asheville. It's
something that we have stressed every day. That's a foundation piece for us, and it's a foundation piece for Carolina basketball. We're always one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, and consistently every day in practice and games, we tell them 3, 4, and 5 get to the offensive glass. One of the differences, offensively this year, maybe compared to last year and years past, is our big guys. We have great spacing and balance, and our big guys have the ability to shoot the ball from the outside, handle it, make plays from the perimeter. And so no longer are they always around the basket, so it puts you further away from the basket. And a lot of people have asked me, well, then you're going to have to sacrifice some offensive rebounding. I disagree. It doesn't matter if you're under the basket, outside the three-point line, or in section 303. If you're a 3, 4, and 5, I want you to crash the offensive glass. You never know what you can do. And for somebody that was a part of the 2017 team, and we got 2 offensive rebounds just off of a free throw, you're not going to move me off of how important it is to get extra possession to get to the offensive glass. And so that's something that has gone up and down and developing because we've had so many new pieces. That's different for them. Justin McCoy never went to the offensive glass when he was at the University of Virginia. It wasn't enforced when Brady Manick was at Oklahoma. And so those are changes to those personnel of their responsibility of going to the offensive glass. But I feel like by the end of the year, we're going to be a great offensive rebounding team.
All right, let's slide in one more question here before we take a break. You talked about this some, Coach, early when you were talking about making decisions instead of just making suggestions. Gil sent this question in. Austin sent this question in. A lot of people are interested in this. What has been the hardest part of the transition for you from assistant coach to head coach?
There hasn't been a difficult situation. People want to know what's been the most difficult part or the hardest part. It's there has been nothing that has been difficult or hard. That my family have enjoyed the transition. I love being head coach. I love all the responsibilities of being a head coach. I love being in a position to be able to help out our players and our kids every day to reach all their dreams and goals. I love the relationships that I have with their families. Probably the biggest difference and adjustment at me being in this role, this is the first time that I've been in the limelight where my wife is as well. When I was obviously in the NBA, I was in the NBA. When I was at ESPN, I was at ESPN. And also this is the first time that I've been in the limelight with social media.
Right.
There was no Twitter. There wasn't any, FaceTime, nothing like that, Instagram. And so that's a difference. Being a head coach here at the University of North Carolina, this is the first time where my wife is on, she's being looked at. She goes around town and people call her the first lady, and it throws her off. And so in terms of the biggest adjustment, that's been the biggest adjustment, and it hasn't been for me, but it's been for my wife.
How have you talked to her and to your kids, especially with social media? There's going to be some ugly things said.
100%.
How have you talked to them about that? Because that can be, I would think, extraordinarily hard for you and them.
It is, but even before me becoming head coach, I had a number of conversations in the way that my wife and I had brought up our children was to never look at outside noise. When I played, I never, and I learned this in high school. It was reinforced here at Carolina and always all throughout my career in the NBA. I never looked at ESPN. I never read a newspaper. I never got on the internet and read articles. I played in the game. I didn't need anybody to give an opinion on how I played and what the game was about. I was actually in the game. I didn't need anybody to give an opinion on what I did with ESPN. I was the one that was speaking. I was the one on camera. And so I've never read articles. I've never looked at social media in terms of anything that I was involved in. And so as we raised our kids, we taught them not to do that. And so now in this situation, it's something that we've already talked about, that they don't look on social media. They're not in chat rooms. They're not reading newspapers. And they realize that irregardless a win or a loss, there's good things and there's bad things that they can say about their father, and they stay away from those type of sites. And I'm very happy with that.
Different world that they're
very
growing
different.
Up in.
There's a lot of noise. It's a lot of times I talk, communication even with our players. We get them for 2.5 hours a day,
right? And
we're giving them love and truth and support. And when they leave the gym, I don't know what they're listening to. One of the things on that phone is you can find somewhere on that phone someone that could agree with whatever opinion you have. And that's the scary part. Yeah. And our job is when they're here with us is to give them truth, is to give them love, is to give them support. I just get scared as when they leave the gym, what they're listening to, what they're looking at, what they're hearing. And I always tell them to limit the noise. And one of the things I always tell them is ignore sideshow distractions. It's Proverbs 4:25. It's a Bible verse, and I give it to them. I said, keep your eyes straight ahead. Ignore all sideshow distractions. And there's a lot of noise out there. And our ability to stay focused on what's the most important thing is going to be huge for us individually and as a team, and let the outside noise be that noise.
All right, we need to take a time out. Come back. A lot more to do with Coach after this from Learfield. Man, we're going to have such a great time talking to Coach Davis all season long. Coach, thank you for your time today. We still have a lot more to do here on the Hubert Davis Show. Let's get right to it, and we're going to start with our refuel question of the night. So our winner is going to get a $25 gas gift card, courtesy of Refuel, fountain drinks with chewy ice, guaranteed fresh coffee, high-performance gasoline, Refuel, fresh-made convenience. This is you were talking about decisions. Biggest decision for me, Coach, every week. Who gets the $25 gas gift card? Right. An exciting night for Chad Huggins, because, Chad, you're our winner tonight. Coach Chad sent him this one. Was curious as to what role or assignment does each assistant coach on your staff have during the game? Do they each have one specific thing that they are charting or following or anything like that during the game?
They don't really have one thing specific outside of the coach that is actually the scout for the team. And so, just for example, say we played Brown, Sean May was the scout for that team, and so he knows more about Brown than the rest of the assistant coaches. So when I have a question about Brown in terms of our strategy on both ends of the floor, I would gravitate towards the coach that is the scout during that game, because he is more prepared than the other assistant coaches. But other than that, there's no specific roles. All of them have been terrific. And a number of times I've said that there's no way that I can do this job without them and their personalities. They give me such confidence and peace out there on the floor to be able to make decisions, to be able to talk to team in timeouts, to make adjustments, to make changes. And their knowledge of the game and their love for this university and their support for me and the players has been absolutely unbelievable, and we work extremely well out there on the bench.
Of course, Brad Frederick, a longtime assistant coach both in the SEC and the ACC. Coach Lebo's been a head coach at multiple stops. This is Sean's first year, though, on the bench. He's been in a staff role with Carolina, but first time that he's been on the bench. How has that transition, in your opinion, gone for him?
It's been great. You know, he's an unbelievable coach. He connects with the players. The players love him. He's somebody that obviously played at the highest level here, and so he understands the commitment, the hard work, the effort, the attention to detail that you have to put yourself in a position to be successful. He's a part of the 2005 championship team, and so when he speaks, he's speaking of experience, of things that he has done and practiced, and the players love it, and they relate to him so well. And the adjustment of becoming a full-time assistant coach and traveling on the road and recruiting, doing scouting, and still being a great husband and a great father of 4 girls, being able to juggle that every day, and I think he's doing a terrific job of it.
Yeah, Sean's coaching does not end when he
leaves.
It does
not.
When he leaves the team at the end of the day.
Not. He's not coaching at home. He's making suggestions.
That's right. He is an assistant, definitely an assistant.
He's assistant on work, and he's an assistant at home. As I am. Yeah. I'm a head coach here, and I make suggestions at home.
Coach, in the next segment, going to let folks listen to a little bit of a conversation Adam Lucas and I had with Pat Sullivan, and we had a great time talking to Pat. Just a bunch of fun. Why was he somebody that you wanted as a member of your staff?
Well, Pat and I have been friends since we played together here at Carolina. I had the pleasure of playing 2 years with him, and we were just instantly great friends as soon as he stepped on campus, and we just enjoyed spending time together. He was actually one of my assistant coaches my last year in the NBA, the Detroit Pistons, when I was with Larry Brown. I was there for half a year. Then I got waived and got picked up by the New Jersey Nets. But for that half of the year, Pat was one of my assistants. And so, he's been in the NBA for 18 years. His experience, his knowledge of the game is off the chart. Yep. And I really believe his love for Carolina, his love for kids, his love for coaching and teaching, and his experience in the NBA is exactly what our players in this program needed. Our guys, they want to be a part of this program. They want to go to school here, and they want to win a national championship, but they also want to go to the NBA. And so in Coach Sullivan, you have somebody that has experienced both, as well as winning a national championship in 1993. And to combine that with his love and his love for this program, and also experience. He was an assistant coach here as well.
That's
and
right.
So, he's seen a lot. He's been in many different roles, and the guys on the team love him being here.
So you're going to hear a little bit of that when we return after this timeout. More to do with Coach Davis, though, before we wrap things up as well. It's the Hubert Davis Show from Learfield. It is Monday, November the 29th. We appreciate you being with us here on the Hubert Davis Show. We're back next week. Again, Coach and I will still be in studio for the first couple this year. Hope to be back at top of the hill before the season comes to an end. Coach, just have time for one quick question here, and then we'll take our final break and wrap things up. This one comes from John Osley. John sent this one in, said, how have you seen the three-point shot change college basketball? Said, of course, you were a great shooter, but the three-pointer played a different role when you played compared to now.
Well, now it's a huge part of pretty much everybody's offenses, is shooting the ball from the perimeter. When I played, the emphasis was getting the ball into the paint, throwing the ball down low to your big guys in the block. And even though that's still something valuable to have, is being able to score in the paint and be able to dominate points in the paint, it's also important to be able to shoot the ball from the outside. From an offensive standpoint, it gives you the spacing. If you don't have shooting, you don't have spacing, and that's what was one of our problems last year, is we just didn't have enough shooting outside of Kerwin Walton, and the spacing wasn't there. And you combine that with two bigs that we had last year, there was nowhere to go. And so The ability to shoot the basketball from the outside is huge in terms of your spacing offensively, but the ability to make threes really helps you out as well. And so that's one of the things that we wanted to address this offseason, not only get better as, a better shooting team, but also have that versatility amongst the bigs. That's the major difference. I can't remember how many bigs that I played with in the NBA or here at Carolina that made three-pointers.
Right.
And now, you've got Brady Manick, who is a prolific three-point shooter. Dawson Garcia can shoot from three. Armando has made one. Justin McCoy can stretch the floor. And so it's almost switched. If you don't have the ability to shoot, you're almost behind on the offensive end. And so I'm glad that, the guys that we were able to get and an improvement that we were able to make in terms of shooting the ball from the outside, I don't think that's a weakness anymore. I honestly think with this team, it's a strength.
You didn't have Eric Montross out there shooting threes when you.
No, I don't remember that, and I don't even want to imagine that. Okay?
Good that the rims are still standing in the Smith Center, so we know that Eric.
That's when offensive rebound comes into play.
All right, we're going to take our final break. Come back, preview the rest of the week with the Tar Heels with Coach Davis. When we return to wrap it up, you're on the Hubert Davis Show from Learfield. Wrapping things up here on the first edition of the Hubert Davis Show. Coach, again, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Heels back in action Wednesday night, 9:15. It's a later tip against Michigan. Radio-wise, we'll be on the air at 8 p.m. Coach, before we get to the Wolverines, what has been the focus for your team since the Asheville game, which was, of course, getting on now a week ago?
Well, we needed to get better defensively. We've changed some of the techniques and the things that we're trying to enforce on the defensive end to make us a better defensive team. One of the when we played up in Connecticut, we gave so many points in the paint, and it was just that's something that at the beginning of the year, from a defensive standpoint, number one, I want to be better on the ball. I want to be able to contain and guard the basketball. And number two is I want to be in position where we can contest three-point shots. And I really didn't feel like it would be an issue of guarding the paint and guarding the basket, but in Connecticut it was. And so we just needed to get back to our foundation pieces and drill work to make sure exactly what we want to do on a defensive end. I feel like we've gotten a lot better defensively and a better understanding of what we're trying to do and the shots that we're going to contest and give up on any given night. And then offensively, just cleaning up. We can score.
Sure.
We got a number of guys. I mean, we have 5 guys in double figures of the 6 games. We've had 5 different leading scorers. The only one left is Kerwin Walton, and he's one of the best three-point shooters in the country. And so just trying to get him more shots, emphasis on screening for him and calling more plays for him because I think from an offensive standpoint, he's pretty valuable for us. And so just cleaning up stuff offensively, making sure that we're efficient, but really this last week, reinforcing what we're trying to do on a defensive end and make sure that we're a great defensive team.
And, Coach, don't need like a full X and O breakdown of Michigan, but just another really good team coming in. 2 big challenges here this week with Michigan and then Georgia Tech on the road.
Yeah, Michigan, I mean, they're extremely well coached. Juwan Howard is doing a fantastic job as head coach at Michigan. He was an unbelievable player in the NBA and also at Michigan. And they have a really good team. They've got a lot of length and athleticism. They're very good in transition. They can shoot the basketball. They've got good point guard play. It'll be a challenge for us, but we like challenges.
Yep.
And they're a good team, but you know what? We're a good team as well. And I'm excited about the challenge of competing against another good team and another great program, and then going on the road for our first ACC matchup at Georgia Tech. It's always a tough matchup with them, especially at Georgia Tech. And so I'm really excited about starting the ACC season and going up against another really good team that plays a different style, particularly on the defensive end in Georgia Tech. And so these are 2 good challenges for us, but that's why you come to North Carolina. You come to North Carolina to be challenged every game and to be competitive and be successful. And so that's what we'll have this week, and I'm looking forward to the 2 games this week.
Again, the next one Wednesday night in the Smith Center, 9:15. Carolina and Michigan will be on the air radio-wise for that one at 8 o'clock. Coach, great to see you. Thanks so much for your time. Look forward to talking with you next week.
It was good. Thanks a lot, Jones.